What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going over Week 13's Monday Night Showdown with the Saints and Buccaneers. This one is going to be a good one, in my opinion. A lot of key injuries on Tampa Bay side, which brings some opportunities on New Orleans. That makes me like a lot more plays. And just injuries overall that makes some very interesting prices on both sites. So let's go over values to start, because in my opinion, there is two really good values. I mean, really good values. If you're new to the channel, what I basically do here is compare both the sites' prices, matchups, stuff like that. I usually stay on Draft Kings just for the numbers. It's a lot easier to see. But I go over the prices on FanDuel too, and just go over some opportunities and stuff like that on both sites. So I'm going to go over values on DraftKings first, and then we'll go over to FanDuel. Values for me are players that are under 4 to 3K, usually under 3K, and this allows you to pay up for your Godwin, Brady, Kamara, Evans, Dalton, all those guys. It allows you to pay up for that. And it's like tonight, it's very easy to find value. So let's start off. Cameron Brate, questionable, right? Even if he plays, he's gotten targets. Like, it's obvious that Brady includes his tight ends. Cade Otton, the rookie tight end, if Brate is out, you get an $1,800 Cameron Brate, who we've seen have success with Tom Brady. That's news to watch for. Even if Cameron Brate plays, Cade Otton is still playable. Because if you look at Brate's illnesses aren't always great. Just because someone clears to play, like Jelani Woods last night was cleared to play and barely got in the game, doesn't mean anything. Cade Otton at $1,800 becomes a huge value if Cameron Brate's officially out. It's so likable. New Orleans plays good against tight ends, under 10 fantasy points every game against tight ends. I get it. But 9 points for somebody you're paying $1,800 for is value. Like, that is value to me, right? Shahid continues to be somebody that's very cheap that gets a big catch for New Orleans. You can see the season of 53, a 30, and a 35. For $1,400, that's also a value in a game like tonight. And why a game like tonight is because almost every corner, every defensive back for Tampa Bay is out. Obviously Carlton Davis and Jamal Dean are both active for Tampa Bay. They're two corners. But Murphy Button and their two safeties are out. That is key in a game like tonight. In today's NFL, safeties being out isn't always what it used to be, of you could plug a safety in and not have to worry. Safeties are very dependent now because it's very short in today's NFL. You don't see a lot of explosive plays this year. So having two safeties like that out is going to be key. So New Orleans has a lot of opportunity to expose Tampa Bay tonight. Adam Troutman. Now, we already know Juwan Johnson's out, unfortunately for him. But that gives us value in Adam Troutman at $1,200 against Tampa Bay, who's becoming one of the worst defenses against tight ends. Adam Troutman last year was somebody that a lot of people looked for as that new up-and-coming tight end. This year, you've seen him have some pretty good numbers. Nothing special by any means, but it's the same thing. $1,200 for a guy that's had an 11, even a 6-point game at $1,200. Like, that is value. It's not crazy value, but if you get 10 points out of him tonight at $1,200, you're in a very good spot. If your top pieces are hitting and you're in that mid pack, if your values are hitting that are low owned percent guys, which these guys probably are going to be higher owned than normal for values, just because of how expensive guys are in injuries and stuff like that. Adam Troutman should be I'd say a decent owned play tonight. The value there, though, is crazy for me. That's it for value on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's crazy. So Jarvis Landry, Cade Otton and Jarvis Landry are the same price. Crazy. Julio Jones is 7,000 on FanDuel, right? Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway, both down there in prices as well. Cameron Brate if he's out. But here's where like pricing is crazy to me. We go down at 5K. Adam Troutman is 5K on FanDuel. That is crazy. Cole Beasley, who is retired from the NFL, is 5,000 as well. He's not even playing and is listed at 5K. That is crazy to me. So, FanDuel obviously did not think that Juwan Johnson was going to be out because they usually adjust for prices for injuries. They did not think that. Russell Gage, questionable. Leonard Fournette, questionable, is key here in a game like tonight. Kevin White, not really impactful at all, in my opinion, as far as injury. So let's go over some of the top prices. So, off the bat, Chris Godwin is the most expensive player tonight. 10-6, Tom Brady at 10-4, and then Kamara at 10. Then you get Mike Evans, Andy Dalton, Chris Olave, and Tampa Bay's running backs. On FanDuel, Tom Brady, Alvin Kamara, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, Andy Dalton, and then Chris Godwin. FanDuel does not value Chris Godwin well tonight. DraftKings does. DraftKings knows this is a very good matchup for all. This should be a very good over game. If offenses don't turn the ball over, this should be a very high-scoring game, in my opinion, tonight. Tampa Bay missing secondary. New Orleans secondary, not good. So, Chris Godwin, 12-5 on FanDuel is just a play that immediately stands out to me on FanDuel. DraftKings, it's a little debatable. You could pay $1,000 less and get Mike Evans, who's in as good of a matchup and gets more end zone targets than Chris Godwin. So that's something that you consider when playing these slates. So automatically, to me, FanDuel has a huge edge for me right now. They have Adam Troutman at 5K and Chris Godwin at 12-5. Really quick, I know I do this towards the end, and I'm not putting Godwin in as captain and keeping him there. So if we have these two guys in, we're left with 14-1. 14-1. There are two players over that. Like, we can almost get the top three players in that lineup. That is crazy. That is crazy to me. So yeah, back to the video. So Tom Brady, good matchup in my opinion. I don't believe Marshawn Lattimore is going to be out. I believe he's playing. So Mike Evans, we all know that matchup. Like I said, Mike Evans for $1,000 cheaper. But he is playing his nemesis in Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans, everyone knows that history. I'd watch the injury news, but I believe Lattimore is good to go. So, something to watch out for. Chris Olave, very good play for me tonight. I really like that. And then Jarvis Landry and Julio right there are perfect mid-tier price guys that I would love to play tonight. And if I get the chance to, I will. Jarvis Landry, for me, is going to have the best matchup, and I hope they include him well tonight. Lining up in the slot, Sean Murphy-Bunting, I believe, is already ruled out. If not, they expect him to be ruled out tonight. Even if he's in, he's the worst graded corner for Tampa Bay, I believe. And at 5,200, I like that price point tonight. Julio Jones, all Tampa Bay receivers besides Mike Evans if Lattimore is in. So Julio, Gage if he plays, Perryman, Godwin, of course, have good matchups, and I like that. So that's it for my wide receivers. You can go to New Orleans and try to find out their third. Traquan Smith, obviously, Shaheed, Marquez Callaway. But those are the receivers I'm focusing on tonight. Quarterback, Tom Brady, I continue to mention how much he throws the ball. The game against Seattle in Germany where they were actually able to run the ball efficiently, and that's pretty much how they won the game. He sees his lowest pass attempts since week 1 against Dallas. So he's throwing the ball a lot. And if New Orleans is able to be competent and able to expose Tampa Bay's secondary, not exposed like they're bad, but exposed because of injuries. We've seen Andy Dalton be pretty efficient this year. for not supposed to be the guy. It's supposed to be Jameis, and Jameis being healthy. We've seen Dalton put some decent numbers up. Not anything that, gets you excited, especially putting up 0 points last week against San Francisco. But against the Rams here, 3 touchdowns, 260 yards, and 84% pass completion gets you 22 fantasy points. That primetime game against Arizona, that was a great game. A game like that is kind of what I would expect tonight. Now, both have key pieces on their defenses that, don't go down that easy. But, I mean, this should be a good game. I just overall love this game. Leonard Fournette is out. Rashard White at 7K becomes a lot more playable for me. We've seen him get a lot of volume the last 2 weeks. 22 for 105, doesn't get any targets. Last week, 14 for 64, so still getting 14 carries. And then 9 receptions for 45 yards. Got almost all of his points in the receiving game. Overall this season, getting targets, getting receptions. And if Fournette is out, Rashard White definitely becomes a play here for me. I mentioned Julio and Jarvis, both plays. The defenses, it's very odd. I don't want to go after either defense. I don't think either defense is bad because, we've seen, if you go back and look at the game earlier this season, against New Orleans, Tampa Bay's defense puts up 26 fantasy points. And then we go at the Saints defense against Tampa Bay, 4. So, big difference there. Not every game is... every game will not be the same, no matter what. No matter what, you will not get the same game twice in a row between teams playing each other. There will always be differences, whether it's players being out, the weather, anything, are all factors that will change the game. So you can't depend on seeing numbers, they played it like this. What you go is you look at a number like Mike Evans and Lattimore. Lattimore consistently is putting Mike Evans in a blender, right? But the numbers are always different, right? So that's something to look at. I mentioned my values. Both kickers are in play tonight as well. We've seen Tampa Bay be very inefficient in games where they need to be efficient. And they could drive down the field easily, but they can't get it done in the red zone. And we've seen someone like Ryan Suckup get rewarded for being I'd say a very good kicker. I wouldn't go elite or put him anywhere a great kicker. I'd say a very good kicker. And then Will Lutz, being one of the bigger names for kickers, having an off year this year though, but he has that big boot mentality. We've seen it this year, 3 field goals over 50 yards. So, in another game like this could be a game where New Orleans is able to drive down the field and they can't close it out either. I don't think they have as much of a problem as Tampa Bay, but this is a game where kickers can get 10 plus fantasy points. But I like Cade Otton, I like Troutman as guys that could potentially get close to 10 points and cheaper. Now I mentioned, the price differences on FanDuel. So I can't ever forget Taysom Hill down here, right? 6,400 on DraftKings, on FanDuel, 10K. He's an oddball. He's a guy that can make or break a slate sometimes. He usually always gets ownership in these showdowns, and rightfully so because, 37 fantasy points against Seattle, one of the craziest, weirdest games you will ever see from a third-string quarterback / third-string tight end. You can say second-string above Troutman, but yeah, I won't go there. So let's make the line now, right? So we went over prices, we went over all that. You could see it here too. So I want to get Jarvis Landry in my lineup. I think Jarvis Landry is a good piece to have in my lineup. I want Adam Troutman in my lineup as well because he's my value. And then I want I want to see what happens if I put Godwin in as captain. I get 9,200. I want to get Olave in my lineup. I want to get Brady in my lineup. 8,900, so I'm not able to get Kamara, Mike Evans, or the New Orleans quarterback. But I have the opportunity, if Leonard Fournette is out, to get Rashard White. So I get a receiver in Tampa Bay, and Chris Godwin is my captain. I get Tom Brady, I get Rashard White, and then I get 3 targets for New Orleans, which doesn't go well for not having the quarterback, having more weapons for Tampa Bay than and having the quarterback. But it's just going Tom Brady outscoring Andy Dalton in that aspect. So that's just an example on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think we got it almost close to what we wanted earlier. I don't want Troutman as captain, so let me put him in as flex really quick. So let's go to all. Let's put Olave. Let's put Olave on captain on FanDuel. We're going to put Godwin in again, and we'll put Brady in. That leaves us 13, and we could put Andy Dalton. We could fade Kamara and Evans yet again, and go Dalton, Rashard White, like anybody except for Kamara and Evans are available. So that's also another example. This one actually works for me on FanDuel versus DraftKings. I'm not able to get Dalton. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. If it did help, please leave a like and subscribe. If you guys are interested in joining us, the link for that will be in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next one.